Laptops over there. Steve, you know the drill. Let's go. Welcome, everybody, to the third episode of the Coffee Break podcast with your host, Stephen Coffey. Today is Friday, February 13th, 2026. There's a lot going on in sports right now. The Super Bowl just wrapped up on Sunday, and the Olympics has also started. And hockey, Olympic hockey, let me tell you, is phenomenal to start off. I'm going to get into that in the Around the League segment, even though it's, we'll say it's Around the League International Edition. We'll say that, okay? But we're going to start off, as usual, with our New York segment. There's not too much going on in New York sports right now. By the way, I'm really distracted by the two monitors. I had the big one over here last week, and now I got two small ones over here. It's really creeping me out. Not too much going on in New York sports right now. In terms of MLB, pitchers and catchers have reported to their proper facilities for spring training. The Mets have reported to Port St. Lucie. Mets news, Juan Soto, David Stearns has announced that Juan Soto is going to be moving from right field to left field. Not too much of an adjustment for Soto. Yeah, it's going to be an adjustment, but early on in his career, he was playing left field both for the Nationals and for the Padres. So not too unfamiliar waters for Juan Soto. Francisco Lindor, he got surgery yesterday on his hamate bone. You know what? I didn't even look up. I don't even know what a hamate bone is. I should have looked it up before this. What is a hamate bone? It's a wedged bone on the ulnar to the pinky side of the wrist. So, like right here is what I'm looking at right now. So, Francisco Lindor is going to be getting surgery on his left. I'm sorry, he already got surgery yesterday on his left hamate bone. The timeline for that is about 6 weeks. He wasn't going to be playing in the World Baseball Classic anyway because the World Baseball Classic wasn't covering MLB players, some MLB players' insurance, which I think is really stupid and it's bad for baseball. But regardless, Lindor's going to be out for 6 weeks, and the Mets are optimistic that he will return for opening day. Let's move on to hockey. The Islanders. Since we last spoke, when we were recording last, the Islanders were taking on the Washington Capitals, and I got really excited over Matt Barzal scoring the first goal of the game, and then they ended up losing 4-1. So the following day, on February 3rd, the Islanders, with an OT winner over the Pittsburgh Penguins, which was huge. The Islanders and the Penguins are right there in the standings together. And it was a big win for the Islanders. It was Penguins leading, Islanders tying it. Penguins leading, Islanders tying it, and the same thing happened. Ryan Pulock scores a goal to tie the game with about 4 minutes left in the game, and then Bo Horvat, who else, with the OT winner. February 5th, 2 days later, Islanders wrap up right before the Olympic break with a 3-1 win over the New Jersey Devils. It is the first time in Islanders franchise history that they sweep the season series over both the Devils and the Rangers. That's incredible to hear. And you heard the Islanders broadcaster. I forgot what his name was. What's the Islanders radio broadcast? I think it's Alan something. Alan Furling. I mess with Alan Furling heavy. He's a really good announcer for the Islanders when Brendan Burke is out and about, doing his thing with TNT. He's at the Olympics now too. So, but Alan Furling, he said the Islanders are now the kings of the tri-state. So and that's fantastic to hear. That the Islanders for once are the big brothers of New York and the tri-state, which is great. So following the Islanders, the Rangers on February 5th as well, they took a 2-0 loss against the Hurricanes. Again, the Rangers are just withering away in the standings. And I don't have it in my notes, but I totally forgot to put it down. The Rangers had traded Artemi Panarin to the LA Kings. I I had a feeling he was going to go out west. I doubted myself, saying, he rejected an offer to go to Seattle. Um, but Artemi Panarin is going to LA. The Rangers only got, I believe it was a prospect and like a third-round pick. And Panarin ended up signing a 2-year extension with the Kings, $11 million AAV. Let's see what he got what the Rangers got in return for Artemi Panarin. They received prospect Liam Greentree and a conditional third-round pick. Yeah. Not. Oof, this is tough. This was really tough to watch. But is it really the Rangers' fault? No, because Panarin had a no-trade clause and he was able to choose where he wanted to go, and because he was able to choose where he wanted to go, the Rangers kind of had to, it was basically like, oh, I want to get traded here, or you guys are stuck with me not playing for the rest of the year, because I don't want to play for you guys anymore. So they kind of just had to ship him off. They had to get something back. They didn't get their desired package, but Artemi Panarin is now an LA King, and good for him, I guess. I don't know. GMs were kind of using that Olympic pause as like a mini trade deadline, and I think that's exactly what Chris Drury did in this situation. So, in terms of the Olympics, Islanders representatives at the Olympics include Bo Horvat for Canada and Andre Palat for Czechia, and Rangers representatives at the Olympics, JT Miller and Vincent Trocheck for the U.S., Minka Zibanejad for Sweden, along with the U.S. assistant GM being Chris Drury, who decided that, and the U.S. head coach Mike Sullivan, again, who decided that. Whatever. That was a very, very short, very, very short New York segment for today. Honestly, let's just jump right into the Around the Leagues segment. And Around the League segment, Super Bowl Sunday was this past Sunday. And wow, what a brutal game, specifically from the New England Patriots. The Seahawks went up 9-0 at half, 3 field goals from Jason Myers, and 8 total punts in the first half, 5 of them being from the New England Patriots. The Bad Bunny halftime show, very overhated. I did not think it was that bad. I think the worst part of the Super Bowl was Lady Gaga, honestly, and you could have picked a better. Yeah, it's an incredible song, right? What is that song even called? What is that song called? Die With a Smile. Why did I blank? That's like one of my favorite songs. Why did I blank like that? Die With a Smile was the worst song to sing to Spanish music. That was horrible. But I think Bad Bunny did a really good job. There's a compilation on that I saw on Instagram and TikTok of him saying, "Hey," like every five seconds. It was actually pretty funny, but I actually didn't think. I thought he put together a really good show. It's not for an American crowd, but the show in itself was pretty good and very, very creative. All right, so we'll move into the second half. The Seahawks, they kicked a field goal on their first drive, and then later on in the third quarter, Drake May fumbles. That was towards the end of the third quarter with it was about like 30 seconds left. And then off that turnover, A.J. Barner, touchdown, 19-0 Seahawks. Following that, though, the Patriots score a quick touchdown. Matt Collins for a 35-yard reception, 19-7 Seahawks. Seattle then punts. And the Patriots get the ball, trying to work maybe a little bit of a comeback, maybe some 28-3 Patriots-Falcons Super Bowl magic. Does not happen. Drake May throws an interception. Seattle's held to a field goal, 22-7, so it's still a 2-possession game. And then the Patriots end up getting the ball back, and Drake May throws a pick 6. 29-7, Seattle, followed by a Ramondre Stevenson touchdown in garbage time. 2-point conversion is no good. 29-13, Seattle Seahawks, final score. And that is why Drake May did not win MVP. And I'm sorry, but that was a brutal, brutal showing. Yes, I know Seattle's got a top 5 defense. Seattle's defense is gross. Okay, the Patriots' O-line really did not help out in this game whatsoever. Um, I didn't think that Drake May. I think Drake May is very overrated. I think Drake May doesn't deserve MVP, and I'm glad that Matthew Stafford ended up winning MVP. Congratulations to Matthew Stafford. He had a phenomenal season at his age, and he's planning on coming back next year, which is fantastic for football. But yeah, Drake May, wow, that was horrible. I wish it was a better game. I really was rooting for you, dude. I really was rooting for you. And I said last week I thought the Patriots were going to win the Super Bowl just because of that dark magic. And you ran out of it, pal. So better luck next year. Sorry, dude. And Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is a Super Bowl champion, former Jet. Wow. Who would have thought 5 years ago that Sam Darnold would be leading his team to a Super Bowl win? Not that he, completely showed out in this game, but, he had a phenomenal season. Not an MVP caliber season. I do think that Drake May had a way better season than Sam Darnold, but Sam Darnold, round of applause. Round of applause to you, my friend. You totally deserve it after, the journey that you have been on, the ups and downs. Fantastic job by Sam Darnold and the rest of the Seattle Seahawks team. There was a bit of a scare in the third quarter with JSN going down to the locker room. I think he went into concussion protocol, but and then Kenneth Walker ended up winning the MVP. I at the end of the third quarter, I thought Jason Myers would have won MVP just because he was the only one that was scoring points for the Seahawks. So that would have been pretty funny if a kicker won Super Bowl MVP. But K9, what a game from you, dude. He was phenomenal. I've been talking about Kenneth Walker over the past few weeks. He's been absolutely phenomenal for the Seahawks, and he wins Super Bowl MVP for the Seahawks to win their first title in, I believe it's 11 years. So congratulations, Sam Darnold. Congratulations, Kenneth Walker. And congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks. We'll move on to the MLB. There's a story in the MLB that I really want to talk about, and it's about Nick Castellanos. He was released by the Phillies after they were unable to find a deal to trade him. He's going into his last year of his 5-year, $100 million contract. And this is a quote from an ESPN article. On Thursday, Castellanos posted a handwritten note on social media explaining an incident that preceded in his benching back in the summer. He said he brought beer into the dugout after being taken out of the game and complained to his manager about team rules. He said teammates took the beer away before he drank any. I've never been a Nick Castellanos fan. I think he's trust me, if he was on my team, I'd love him. And he tests the media. He really tests the media with his answers after the questions they ask. So sometimes, media is just like ask stupid questions, and the nice players will be like, oh yeah, we're working hard and whatever. But Nick Castellanos wants none of that, and I think it's hilarious. I think it's really funny. But again, he's entering his last year of that 5-year, $100 million contract. So the Phillies still do owe him around $20 million. And the Olympics are finally here. And everybody's watching Olympic hockey. Let's just say that. First time in 12 years that NHL players are allowed to play in the Olympics. Last time was in 2014 at the Sochi Olympic Games. We're just going to go through all the games that have gone on so far. There's been 3 days worth of games, and it's been about 10 games. So we'll hop right into it. On Wednesday, the first day of games, Slovakia upsets Finland 4-1. I don't know how to say his name. Juraj Slavkovsky. I know it's Slavkovsky. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. Juraj Slavkovsky is gross. He scored 2 goals for Slovakia, and he lifted them to a 4-1 win over Finland. That was an upset. And to kick off with the wow, I can't speak right now. To kick that game off with for the Olympics was amazing. Followed up by Sweden beating Italy 5-2. The shots on goal in that game were 60-22 in favor of Sweden. 60 shots, unbelievable. 60 shots. This was a close game at one point. It was 2-2. And it was 2-2, and I believe it was like 35-4 in favor of Sweden for shots. I did a little research on the Italian goalie who was standing on his head throughout the entire game, Damian Carla. He's a second-round pick for the Anaheim Ducks. He's in the Anaheim Ducks. He's a prospect for the Anaheim Ducks. He was pulled 6 minutes into the third. He faced 49 shots and ended the day with a .939 save percentage in that game. Great game from him, and Sweden, you should have done better than that. That was kind of embarrassing. Whoever, I don't even know who the Swedish goal. Oh, it's UC Saros. Never mind. UC Saros, that was embarrassing, my friend. That was horrible. I totally lied. He's from Finland. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know who's playing goal. I think it was Philip Gustafsson for that. Playing goalie in that game. Wow, that's embarrassing, dude. You gave up 2 goals on 4 shots, bro. Come on, let's be better than that. Gabe Landeskog scored in that game. I know Minka Zibanejad scored in that game. Victor Hedman topped it off with an empty netter to make it 5-2, and Sweden takes that game 5-2 over Italy. Moving on to Thursday, February 12th, Switzerland beats France 4-0. Timo Meyer scores 2 goals. To the next game, Canada beats Czechia 5-0. Celebrini, wow, Macklin Celebrini, dude. This kid is unbelievable. And found out today that 3 out of the top 4 point leaders in the NHL are playing on the same line for Canada. Celebrini, McDavid, and McKinnon. That is lethal. And watch out, because if that's the case, if they're going to keep performing like they have been, watch out. This is a scary Canadian team, and this is probably the best team that has ever been built. Goals from Celebrini, Mark Stone, Bo Horvat, Islanders rep, let's go, baby. Nathan McKinnon and Nick Suzuki, and a 26 save shutout for Jordan Binnington. Later on, the U.S. beat Latvia 5-1 to start the game. Matthew Tkachuk to Brady Tkachuk for the first goal of the game. Quinn Hughes from the point shot was called back for offsides. Then Brock Nelson, tip-in goal, also called back for goalie interference on JT Miller. Then Brock Nelson follows up, scoring a goal. This one counts, 2-1 U.S., then followed up by Tage Thompson, another one from Brock Nelson. Brock Nelson, you're my king. And Austin Matthews. 5-1 victory over Latvia. U.S. took care of business. Germany beats Denmark 3-1, and the Stars really showed out in this game. It was Draisaitl with the first goal of the game. Denmark then ties it. Then Tim Stützle with 2 goals of his own. Germany beating Denmark 3-1. Moving on to Friday, which is today. Finland this morning beat Sweden 4-1. Sweden, come on, dude. Slovakia beat Italy 3-2. Not too important, not too big name players for these teams. Czechia beats France 6-3. France at the beginning of this game, or not in the beginning, in the second period, were up 3-2, and then Czechia scores 4 unanswered. Pasternak with one of those goals. And then to follow that, Canada beats Switzerland 5-1. McDavid scores his first Olympic goal, followed by Thomas Harley, Celebrini again, Crosby, and Nathan McKinnon. Sid the Kid scoring a goal. Not the first time he's been here. And I had learned this the other day that Sidney Crosby and Drew Doughty are the only 2 players where this is their second Olympics. And all the other players, just because of, the NHL not allowing NHL players to go to the Olympics, everybody playing that's in the NHL. It's their first time playing in the Olympics. That's why it's so big for guys like Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid too. So, but yeah, that it's been a very eventful few days for hockey in the Olympics, and I'm continuing to try and watch as many games as I possibly can. I've been setting alarms for about 6:30 in the morning to get up and try and watch the games. I would take my computer out and I would put it on, but I would fall right back to sleep, and I would wake up and curling is on. So that's pretty funny. We're going to wrap it up here with the betting segment. I had put together a little parlay that has to do with the Olympics, but like we did last week, I want to go over my picks from Super Bowl Sunday. That 4-leg parlay unfortunately did not hit, but we were 3 for 4. So Jackson Smith and Jigba, anytime touchdown. That was the only one that did not hit. Ramondre Stevenson, anytime touchdown. He scored that touchdown in garbage time. Drake May, over 0.5 interceptions. And Drake May, over 221.5 passing yards. I believe he ended with around, like, a little under 300. So 3 out of the 4 legs hit. We're 7 for 8 overall. And hopefully this parlay that I have for the men's Olympics ends up hitting. We have another Fliff parlay. $1 free to win, and you'll see. My first pick, it's a 4-leg parlay. It's parlay of the week. My first pick for this parlay is we're going to go to the games on Sunday, just so I can have time to edit this and send it out. I want to put it on TikTok. So first game on Sunday at 6 a.m. is Czechia versus Switzerland. I have Switzerland at plus odds. I have Switzerland at plus 105. I think Switzerland. Yeah, they just lost to Canada earlier today. But Switzerland did have a win. They had a shutout win, a 4-0 win over France a couple days ago. So I think Switzerland, at least for value, in terms of value, plus 105 ain't too bad for Switzerland and Czech Republic. I think that. I'm sorry to interrupt this sports betting segment, but today's a sad day. My beloved SD card has run out. It is dead. So while I was recording that, this sports betting segment, my SD card has finally run out of juice. Honestly, I don't know how this thing is still alive. This SD card's been around for a long time, and I want to say that I've been using it since maybe March or April of last year. So it almost lasted me an entire year, which is fantastic. Thankfully, I had just ordered a new one last week because I had a feeling this was going to run out, and I brought it. I was very thoughtful of bringing it. I'm so lucky that I brought it. But yeah, rest in peace to Coffey SD. I think it's called Coffey SD2. Wait, let's see what it's called. Because I had a first one that had run out when I was like a sophomore in high school. I'm sorry, a sophomore in college. Yeah, Coffey SD2. Rest in peace. So, not knowing that had run out, I had done the entire parlay, and then and my outro, and then just to see that it wasn't recording anymore because I had a feeling it was gonna die on me today. I really did. But anyway, like I was saying, Switzerland at plus 105 money line against Czechia. I think that's really good value, and I think it's going to be a very even matchup. Following that, France versus Canada, the money line for this was absurd. It was like Canada minus 1,000 something. So I steered away from that because there's no value in that at all. And I stuck with over 7.5 goals scored in this game at minus 115. I think Canada is going to wallop France, and I think it's going to be I think it's going to be an absolute blowout, and I think Canada is going to score. I wouldn't be surprised if Canada scores 10 goals. Latvia versus Denmark, over 5.5 goals scored in that game at +110, which is kind of crazy. They don't think that that's gonna. They don't think that either of these teams are going to score. These teams combined are going to score 6 goals. I think that's kind of ridiculous. So at +110, it's fantastic value. And then Germany versus the U.S. to top it off, over 6.5 goals scored in this game at -115. I think this is going to be. I think this is going to be a very good game. I think the U.S. is going to score around 5 goals. Yeah, they beat Latvia 5-1, right? But I think the U.S. scores around 5. I think Germany scores around 3. I think that 5th goal from the U.S. is going to be an empty net goal. So I think 6.5 is a pretty safe bet. Those 4 legs add up to +1404. One free flip dollar pays out $15.04. And folks, that'll do it for the 3rd episode of the Coffee Break podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Follow me on TikTok at the Coffee Break podcast. I continue to have fun, recording these episodes, and I can't wait to get into another one in episode 4 when hopefully we're in the thick of the hockey Olympic playoffs. But until then, take care, everybody, and I will see you in episode 4. Peace out.